So, Success Habits by Napoleon Hill, Proven Principles for Greater Wealth, Health, and Happiness. I'm really excited, so let's just get started. We're going to start with the foreword, and then it'll be the chapter 1, I believe. So, let's actually make sure. Yes, the foreword and then chapter 1. So, a young magazine reporter from the mountains of Southwest Virginia, Napoleon Hill was assigned to interview American steel magnate Andrew Carnegie. Mr. Carnegie was impressed with young Napoleon's intelligence and ambition, and at the end of the 3-day interview, Mr. Carnegie asked him if he would devote 20 years of his life without pay to researching and writing the first book ever on the philosophy of success developed and applied by America's leaders. With some trepidation but little hesitation, Napoleon said yes and assured Mr. Carnegie he would not only begin the project, but that he would complete it. Complete it he did, and 20 years after that 1908 interview, Napoleon Hill published his first book titled Law of Success. It was followed in 1937 by what became the best-selling success book of all time, Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon went on to publish many more motivational books and lectured extensively throughout the United States in succeeding decades. He was enjoying semi-retirement in the 1950s. In his late 60s, when Chicago insurance tycoon W. Clement Strone urged the by-then Dr. Hill to present a number of radio and television lecture programs. Always desirous of teaching his success principles to new audiences, he accepted and put on several such programs throughout America. Dr. Hill and his wife established the Napoleon Hill Foundation in 1962, intending that it would continue to teach his principles after he was gone. He died in 1970, and the foundation they established continues to carry on to this day, spreading his principles throughout the world in scores of languages. I have been a trustee of the foundation since 1997 and its executive director since 2000. A few years ago, I came across the dusty tapes and transcripts of several of Dr. Hill's radio and television lecture programs that had been tucked away in the foundation's archives. They had never been published. Foundation trustees were thrilled to have the opportunity to resurrect them, and thus was born the Napoleon is on the Air series of books. The book you are holding is one in that series, a transcription of weekly radio programs presented in 1952 in Paris, Missouri. How did Napoleon Hill come to give a series of radio interviews in the small town of Paris, Missouri? The answer illustrates one of his 17 principles of success developed in his 20 years of research. The principle is that every adversity carries with its seed of an equivalent advantage. Dr. Hill had put on a seminar in St. Louis, Missouri, a large city on the Mississippi River, which had turned out to be unprofitable. More money was spent promoting it than was received in attendance fees. However, a longtime follower of Dr. Hill, Bill Robinson, a businessman in Paris, Missouri, was in the audience and was inspired to invite Dr. Hill to put on a series of lectures in Paris. Paris at that time was a town of only 1,400 people. It is located in rural northeastern Missouri on the central fork of the Salt River, far from any major metropolitan areas. St. Louis, the nearest large city, is approximately 135 miles away. Young people were leaving Paris for greater employment opportunities in bigger cities. Robinson was worried about the decline of the town and arranged to have nearly 100 townspeople attend the series of lectures over several weeks. They would be broadcast on local radio, and Dr. Hill would receive $10,000. There were skeptics in Paris who thought that the lectures would be little more than a medicine show, but Dr. Hill soon won them over with his powerful messages. Following these inspirational broadcasts, many Paris citizens banded together the discussion groups. A local minister presented a series of sermons based upon Dr. Hill's teachings. A number of new businesses, and many as 10 by one account, sprouted in this small town as a direct result of the lectures. A few after the broadcasts, Dr. Hill said that an elderly Paris resident told him that nothing had come to the community within the past 50 years which had made such a profound impression on so many of the people, as had been made by the teaching of the philosophy. A movie titled A New Sound in Paris was made, documenting the changes that were brought about in that small community by Dr. Hill's lectures. It was seen by hundreds of thousands and helped spread the success principles taught by Dr. Hill. Unfortunately, it appears to have been lost to history. Napoleon Hill loved Paris. It was wholesome, small-town America. Mark Twain had been born nearby in Florida, Missouri, and his books reflected the Midwestern culture of honesty, determination, and hard work. Beloved American artist Norman Rockwell painted a famous picture of the bustling local newspaper office in Paris in 1946 that appeared in the Saturday Evening Post. The wandering Salt River and its three forks beautified the area and ultimately poured into the mighty Mississippi. One fork passed under one of the few covered bridges ever built in Missouri. Napoleon Hill once said, "The path of least resistance makes all rivers and some men crooked." That phrase aptly describes the meandering Salt River. Fortunately, thanks in some part of Dr. Hill's efforts, it does not describe the men and women of Paris who worked hard to avoid that path and to make their lives, the lives of their families and their community, successful and happy. As you read this book, the first and only publication of these radio lectures, you will encounter some men who followed the path of least resistance. But Dr. Hill will show you the way to reject this path by the application of his principles of success. The lectures concentrated on a few of the 17 success principles, ones that Dr. Hill believed would be especially helpful to the people of Paris. The first two deal with definiteness of purpose, viewed by many Hill followers as the most important of the laws of success. The next two focused on the importance of accurate thinking. The next two explained how applied faith was necessary to the attainment of success. The next two dealt with the causes of failure and how to overcome them with persistence and decisiveness. The ninth showed how self-discipline was essential to success. The next two dealt with the importance of a pleasing personality to achieving success. The final two dealt with cosmic habit force, the only one of the 17 principles of success that Dr. Hill claimed had not been recognized by anyone before he discovered it. In the lectures of definiteness of purpose, Dr. Hill explained how the laws of nature reflect a definite purpose and plan. He detailed the 9 basic motives that propel people to carry out their plans and accomplish their purposes. In the Accurate Thinking lectures, Dr. Hill explained the difference between inductive and deductive reasoning and showed how to separate important facts from the unimportant. He detailed how people should challenge the opinions and statements of others by asking the simple question, "How do you know?" Falsehoods, he said, came with warning notes. He listed the enemies of accurate thinking, perhaps most importantly, the emotions, concluding that accurate thinking is cold-blooded thinking. In his lecture on applied faith, Dr. Hill explained how to develop it using one definite major purpose, mastering mind alliances, and the principle of learning from adversity. He provided many examples of industrialists and inventors who applied faith to benefit mankind. Changing his approach, the next two programs dealt with the cause of failure. He listed the major causes and gave concrete examples of how to overcome them through persistence and decisiveness. He helped to convince his listeners, many of whom who were down on their luck, that they did not have to surrender to these causes of failure. In his self-discipline lecture, Dr. Hill told of 13 challenges in his own life that were overcome by self-discipline. In an especially eloquent manner, he described the importance of using self-discipline to budget and control one's use of time. Dr. Hill listed 25 major factors contributing to a pleasing personality and invited his listeners to take inventory and grade themselves against these factors. He admitted that he himself did not always live up to these standards. He gave himself examples of those who did and also listed 15 things one should not do if one wanted to have a pleasing personality. The final 2 lectures were on cosmic habit force and explained how Dr. Hill discovered this concept upon reading Think and Grow Rich for the first time a year and a half after he wrote it. Cosmic habit force is the law by which one acquires habits to carry out one's major purpose. Dr. Hill provides a number of ways one can use this principle to accomplish one's goals and objectives. I believe you will find these timeless radio programs to be informative and that they will show you the way to achieve success and happiness. It was Dr. Hill's intention to teach and inspire the people of Paris to use his principles to overcome adversity, to avoid the path of least resistance, to get onto the straight and narrow, and to work hard to turn their lives around. I know that it worked for Paris, and I am confident that it can work for you as well. Don Green, the Executive Director, Napoleon Hill Foundation. So next we're going to jump into chapter 1, so stay tuned. You can be sure to subscribe. It's a new channel, so I'm really excited. So yeah, this was just the foreword. We're going to jump right into chapter 1, which is the definiteness of purpose. So stay tuned and thanks for watching.